the first few times I saw Anthony Yarde fight, I thought to myself, Jesus, this guy has got serious potential. Particularly when I found out that he'd only had 12 amateur fights, I thought, this guy's a precocious talent. In fact, I'm sure I put that in the title of the first video I ever made about Anthony Yarde. I called him a precocious talent. Somebody who has been able to pick up the sport of boxing incredibly quickly and make a tremendous amount of progress in a short space of time in terms of developing his technique, so on and so forth. So I've always been impressed by Anthony Yarde's gifts, his speed, athleticism, punching power, physical strength, and as I say, the way he's been able to pick up boxing so quickly in such a short space of time with such little experience. And from that moment, I took a keen interest in his career. I wouldn't have taken a keen interest in Anthony Yarde's career if I didn't think he had the potential to go places. If he was just any other prospect, I may not have even made a video about him if I didn't think he had ability. It's because he has ability, in my opinion, that I've taken such a keen interest in his career. But since that time, it's become very apparent that his trainer and manager, Tunde Ajayi, is taking an approach with him which is similar to the Mexican approach. And those of you who are not familiar with the Mexican approach, in Mexico, most professional boxers don't have extensive amateur backgrounds. They tend to have very few amateur fights, turn pro very young, and then they give them 20 fights maybe against journeymen, sometimes more than that, 30 fights against journeymen before they eventually step them up and put them in competitive fights. That is their method, and that's a method which has worked for many great Mexican fighters over the years. But the British public are not accustomed to that, particularly not when it's with a fighter who is being marketed in the way that Anthony Yarde's being marketed, as a future superstar. The public are not accustomed to somebody who is 16-0, who's being marketed as a superstar, not taking on his domestic rivals, particularly in this day and age, when we've seen so many fighters take on their domestic rivals, including Anthony Yarde's friend, O'Hara Davis. So the public are not accustomed to that, and because of that, there's growing frustration with the way Anthony Yarde is being matched. Now, at the end of the day, the proof is in the pudding. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Tunde Ajayi's approach to matchmaking Anthony Yarde is the wrong approach, because I don't know. It might be the right approach. I'm not with Anthony Yarde in the gym day in, day out. So I don't see what Tunde Ajayi sees. So I can't tell you what Tunde is doing is wrong in terms of the way he's matching him. And I'm impressed with what Tunde is teaching him. When I see Anthony Yarde's technique and so on and so forth and his development, I'm impressed. But there is one area in which I don't think Tunde is doing a good job, and that's with the PR. To me, Tunde comes across bad in a lot of the interviews he's doing. And that is going to negatively impact Anthony Yarde in terms of his relationship with the public to some degree. Tunde, in his latest interview with Rob Tebbett on Boxing Social, accused Rob Tebbett of trying to trick him when Rob was asking legitimate questions. The reality is the only person who was trying to trick anyone was Tunde with the answers he was giving, which are very rarely straight answers. Tunde was trying to have the public believe that fighting the likes of Sekloka and Sek and all these people that Yarde has been fighting, that those are better learning experiences than taking on somebody like a Jose Burton. That is what Tunde Ajayi was trying to sell the public. Now, to me, that is somebody who's trying to trick people. Because if you know your boxing, you would understand that the guys Anthony Yarde has been fighting are not as hungry as a Jose Burton. They're not as ambitious as a Jose Burton. Many of them are not even real light heavyweights, whereas Jose Burton is. But Tunde is trying to make people believe that these guys are better learning experiences than a Jose Burton fight. And again, I'm not saying that Tunde Ajayi is necessarily doing the wrong thing by not having Anthony fight people like Jose Burton, because the proof is in the pudding. We'll have to wait and see in the long run if Tunde's method was the best way to go. But just from a PR point of view, I don't think he's doing Anthony any favors with these interviews that he's doing. He just makes Anthony look bad. Behaving like a politician. Never a straight answer. Contradicting himself. For people who don't really know boxing, they might fall for the stuff that Tunde's saying. But for people who do know boxing, they're not going to fall for it. You know, Tunde's from South London. I'm from South London too. We're very similar in age. Tunde, I believe, is from Peckham. I'm from Brixton. We've been in many of the same gyms. He might not realize it. We've been in many of the same gyms in South London over the years, over the decades. I've been around boxing nearly my whole life. So has Tunde. So I know the game. I'm from a very similar background to Tunde Ajayi. I know the game, and I know when he's not being 100% truthful, or when he's being economical with the truth. Let's just put it that way. When he's trying to mislead people a little bit. So again, this is no diss to Tunde in terms of the job he's doing as a manager. This is no diss to Tunde in terms of the job he's doing as a trainer. But I do think that the job he's doing in terms of PR, and I know maybe, he's probably not trained in PR, I don't know, but I don't think he's doing a very good job with the PR. I think he should lay off the interviews and actually leave the interviews to Anthony. Because Anthony Yarde comes across as a very affable, likable character. So even though there are going to be people who are frustrated with the fact that he's not taking on his domestic rivals, he just has just I don't know, he's just a more affable character from what I can see. So, not that Team Yarde need to take my advice, but personally, just as my opinion, and hey, we've all got opinions, right? They're like belly buttons. Everybody's got one. As my opinion, I think Tunde needs to lay off doing the interviews because, yeah, he's making Anthony look a bit bad in the eyes of people who understand boxing. Now, the other thing I'm going to say here is that I will not be doing any more Anthony Yarde videos until he's in a competitive fight. Now, he might get matched against somebody who he's supposed to blow out, and it turns out to be competitive. Then I'll make a video about it, a post-fight video. Or, when Anthony Yarde steps up and faces someone who is supposed to be competitive, then I'll make a pre-fight video for that. But until that happens, wake me up when we get there. When you're on a long drive down the highway or the motorway, whatever you call it in your country, and someone else is driving, and it's a long drive, and you tell them, you know what? Wake me up when we get there. You go to sleep. That's what I'm doing right now when it comes to Anthony Yarde and his career. No disrespect. I understand what Tunde is trying to do with this process of, very, very slowly raising the level of his opposition over a long period of time. It's like the Mexican method. I understand what he's doing. But at this point in time, it's not really interesting for me to watch. Or at least it's not interesting enough for me to talk about, because I'll probably be watching the fights. They'll be on undercards, right? It's not interesting enough for me to talk about or cover on my channel. Once he's in a competitive fight, then I'll start making videos about him again. So yeah, wake me up when we get there. It is what it is. Again, it's no disrespect. Definitely no disrespect to Anthony Yarde. Definitely no disrespect to Tunde Ajayi. Just my opinion. Like I said at the start of the video, I wouldn't be so interested in his career if I didn't think he had potential, if I didn't think he was talented. So don't anybody take it as me hating on Anthony Yarde or me underestimating him or anything like that. It's not that. I just feel like Tunde's not doing a good job when it comes to PR. He's making Anthony look a little bad. And because this process of matching Anthony Yarde very carefully until he's at the level they want him to be at before they step him up, because this process is likely to take a long time, I'm just not going to be focusing on his career as much as I was before. And I'm sure people are going to be saying, so what? Anthony don't care about that. Tunde don't care about that. And that's cool. I'm speaking to the people who maybe will be wondering, why didn't you make a video about Anthony Yarde's latest fight? Why didn't you make a video about this or video about that? As I said to you, wake me up when we get there. When he's in a competitive fight, I'll start making the videos again. All right? So let me know how you feel in the comment section below, people. It's happening. I'm out.